Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk and awesome rock on KTNTRadio.com.
Gentlemen, welcome to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. Third rule of Fight Club, someone yells stop, goes limp, taps out. The fight is over. Fourth rule, only two guys to a fight. Fifth rule, one fight at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to. And the eighth and final rule, if this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight.
Tuesday show, folks. I love me my Tuesday show. Here we go. Well, good evening, America, and welcome once again to Ambush Studios here in central Massachusetts. We are pumping out 1,000 watts of power going across the nation to KTNTRadio.com out in LA, all the way from LA to MA. I've got a great guest lineup tonight. We've got Dan Jackson and Joe Garcia from Becker College. These guys are from the Young Americans for Liberty. We're going to talk about some of the pressures these guys are dealing with on college campuses. And of course, we all know what's going on. All the vagina hats and the Berkeley people. It's completely out of control. These guys are going to give us a really good insight into what's happening right there on the ground. So as I always say, folks, seat backs and tray tables, upright position, helmets and safety glasses are required. If the content of the show offends you, hey, we are a no apologies radio show. The Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk and awesome rock. Politically incorrect and definitely not halal approved. Okay, guys, here we go. And we're going to ditto cam this as well. So that'll go out on the YouTube channel. And I want to welcome from Young Americans for Liberty out of Becker College, Dan Jackson, Joe Garcia. How you doing, guys?
I'm doing good.
So we were talking earlier off mic about some of the pressures you guys must be feeling, and you were talking earlier about you want to be able to pass it on to some of the younger students coming in. And I had said that a lot of these groups, they exist anyway, all over the country, but they have to actually operate almost in the dark. Start off by giving us your insight, what you have to deal with as libertarian / conservative, what you have to deal with. How do you operate in the dark, right into the mic?
It's definitely all in the dark right now. I mean, when I started at Becker College, it was more or less professors would just kind of have their way of indoctrinating students in class, and there was a point where we all just really got sick of it, and we were like, we need to start something at the college, we need to get political, we need to be able to sit and talk about this with everyone. And really the biggest thing that we thought was, well, why don't we just bring a national organization onto campus? So we contacted Young Americans for Liberty, got a chapter set up, but I had to present this chapter to the college and the person who runs all the clubs for the school. It's generally one person that approves it from the college. And I'll tell you, when I went there, she was like, okay, you can start this, but you can't have it be anything to the right or left. And I was like, well, what do you expect me to do? Like, I can't. So basically, I just kind of...
She said it can't be to the right or the left.
Yeah, she was like, you have to...
Oh, she's trying to cover her ass.
Exactly.
But we all know, folks. We know.
Yeah.
Keep going, Dan. I'm sorry.
No, basically, no, you have a really good point. Really, it was the emphasis on the right. They don't want to hear anything like that, especially in their college campuses. But yeah, we pushed for it, and we basically said we will do our best to be as bipartisan as possible with my fingers crossed behind my back, and knowing full well that I'm going to go down there every Thursday and I'm going to tell people that, listen, less government is better. There's not a doubt in my mind about this. Communism has killed more people in the history of the world than anything else, and I push these things, and I tell these things to people, and I educate them, and I give it to all these kids. And we went from 5 people to 25 people to 35 people, and now we just recruited another 20 freshmen. And at this point, we have enough people that if they were to do something, which is what I wanted originally, I wanted it so that if people were to do something, if they were to try to push us off campus, if they were going to try to bully us, we have enough bodies and enough people that we could bully right back.
Excellent. It didn't take long to recruit people. And recruiting is the wrong word. I was talking to Dan and Joe earlier about how the libertarianism, conservatism, it's more of a way of life. It's far more organic than anything on the left. The left constantly has to be manufactured. It was no sweat for you guys to just, all right, how did you do it? What was your pitch? What was your sales pitch?
Okay, well,
all right, go ahead.
I do the head of recruiting, so I'm the guy that always walks up to people and talks to them, and a lot of them are artists. We have a very big artist population at the school, and I'm like, hey, you like freedom, you like being able to make what you want to make, and basically you get a lot of people on the left now who just say, hey, you can't make that offends my sensibilities. You know?
So what? Fuck off.
Exactly. And a lot of designers and artists are really open to that idea, and that's like their big push and why they get into it. That's why I got into it originally at the college, because I saw a lot of professors being that kind of leftist indoctrination and saying, hey, you can't make a game on that because that's political. It's like, just because it's political, you can't make a game on it? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I've never understood this penchant to stay apolitical, to keep it so even keel, because first of all, that's not how politics actually works. Especially here in the United States, there's always been the left and the right. There have always been, part of our freedoms is the ability to create political parties, to create unions, to organize, to gather, to negotiate, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's been a principle of this nation forever. So I've often been stymied as to why teachers or whatever, even these boards, the Student Governance Advisory Board, I'm sure those guys were like, well, here are the rules. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And it stymies me. I don't know why.
And honestly, like, going back into talking about with the recruiting, when we first started out, one of the things that I found that worked really well is you got to talk about the freedom of speech. No one in their right mind, especially people that live in Massachusetts, want to have what they have to say silenced, and they don't like feeling like they have a lesser viewpoint because of a different political party. And just talking about that drew all of the people out that were usually in the shadows, usually in the dark, all these conservatives, right-leaning libertarians, even libertarians just flat out. No one wanted to stand up and talk about the fact they feel like they've been screwed for the last 8 years by big government, and that their families have been screwed. I got one person with me whose family has been absolutely taken to the cleaners by Obamacare. And they can't pay the premiums, they can't pay for the insurance.
Ours has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
See, you guys, first of all, don't have kids, first of all. So I've got 3 kids. My daughter's, she's a senior in high school. Totally, completely healthy family. Probably once a year, something might happen. Anyway, long story. My daughter ended up having to go into the hospital for a couple of days, and everything's fine. Now, if this was 5 or 6 years ago, or even 10 years ago, before Obama, our co-payment might have been $100, $200. The insurance would have covered it. But now, because of the jacking up of the rates and the jacking up of that co-payment, and the deductible being so high, I mean, we just got a bill for like $1,500.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to the hospital, and I said to them, so what? Well, you have to pay the bill. I said, to be honest with you, this is rent. I said, I can't.
Yeah.
I said, but I can send you $100 a month. Well, no, we need to have this bill paid. I was like, listen, this isn't how it's going to end up happening.
Yeah.
I'm sending you the first check now for $100, and this is just how it's going to have to go.
Yeah.
This is the problem. That I don't think a lot of people, everyone thinks in terms of, it's national health care, it's free. Oh, it's free health care. Everyone's this is how people are gonna end up having to pay all these bills. Well, I can only send you $50 a month. Or it's like, and this is how we're just going to have to get used to it.
I mean, we're
and this is what
people.
This is what the left. See, what were we talking about earlier about how, the left it constantly has to be manufactured.
Yeah.
See, the left has it in their minds that this is going to be great. We're going to get the free health care. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Obamacare, it's so wonderful. even in the face of the stark realities of what is really going on with Obamacare, these leftists still cling to it.
Yeah.
You must hear it.
Of course we do. I mean, like, we're in a college, a private college in central Massachusetts that is a mainly art school. What else is there? Like
It's all lefty fruities.
It's literally just that. We have outspoken socialists, we have anti-fascists on our campus.
You must have socialist alternative there.
Oh, of course we do.
Is the group that socialist alternative group?
We've seen them drop stuff on our campus. They haven't tried to start a chapter.
Yeah, they've got that orange flag,
Yeah.
socialist alternative. I filmed them down at Worcester City Hall during the campaign.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when the mayor bussed in all the people?
Yeah, all the protesters called them all idiots.
Were you guys
afterwards.
there at all?
I wasn't there. I watched from home and laughed. Well, because I mean, as soon as, of course, Petty's going to step in it, and that's usually what
And he did.
does.
He ended up
Yeah.
stepping in it. He ended up stepping in that whole apology gate thing that he ended up getting his ass caught into. So the Young Americans for Liberty, now your chapter, how long has the writ large group, how long has that been?
The large group actually started originally as students for Ron Paul
Well, there you go.
back during his election, or when he was running for president. And what happened was they were like, we have too many people, and there's no way. I don't think he's going to run again. So we need to have a way to sustain this this pride and this needing for liberty, this wanting to talk about it on campuses. So Young Americans for Liberty was born on that.
Sure. 08, I think, right?
Yeah, it was 08.
08.
And he loves it. This is like his baby. He's always coming and talking to us.
Sure. Yes, it is absolutely unbelievable. Think about what happened with Bernie Sanders, how that mass movement, lots of young people.
Of course.
It's the same thing that happened with the whole Ron Paul.
Yeah.
I remember that in 08, we had the Liberty Clubhouse down here in the center of the city there, and then the cops raided it. And, that's a long story. Yeah. Anyhow. So that's amazing that movement has attracted so many young people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering why young people today were able to gravitate more towards Bernie Sanders, and why Ron Paul, or even Rand Paul, didn't garner that same type of movement all over again in this election, in 16.
They missed something that they got with people like Bernie Sanders, and that is that with Bernie Sanders, he coddles to their sensibilities, and that's the one thing that I've found with many leftists, but mostly with Bernie Sanders, and why I thought he was actually the most dangerous candidate. I thought that his way of slipping in socialism into this country would have been our death knell if he would have been able to. I mean, not only are we already dealing with it, but he would slip even more in.
Sure.
The enticement of free is what drives college students, especially ones like us that are in private school, that are working part-time jobs as well as doing full-time school, working full-time jobs even.
Now, what's your major?
I'm business administration working.
What's your major?
Game production and management.
Gaming production.
Yeah.
Designing PlayStation games and Xbox. Sure.
Yeah, all that
Dude,
stuff.
I'm telling you, that is the business to get into. You like it? You're a big gamer?
I mean, I am, but, I've gotten into it and then I got involved with this politics thing, and I've noticed there's a lot of really, really left-leaning people. In fact, they're socialists.
In the gaming industry?
They're just communists.
Say what they are.
All right, that's what they are.
Yeah.
We got people who are in leadership positions in the school who openly support Antifa, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, man, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Thank God we're here.
Yeah.
The Antifa movement is nothing more than the modern day version of Hitler's brown shirts.
Yeah.
That really is. Hitler's brown shirts were well paid, well organized, and they were told to go to protests or go to rallies and quite literally clock people in the head, set things on fire.
They're there to cause disruption, especially during peaceful Trump protests, when people are going out to just voice their support. I mean, the president's attacked on all sides constantly, seeing a little bit of support. You'd think that it would be important, especially to show him our support, but instead they send out these Antifa to these places and they incite violence. And now what we're seeing is something that I saw coming, and was that you see a citizens vanguard forming of people that are against that. And that's why you have people like Kyle Chapman who are going to need GoFundMe pages to get them bailed out of jail when they whack one of these leftists in the face. And it's the best thing. I'm not big on the whole violence thing, but to see one of those Antifas get punched out, of course, yeah.
This is the unfortunate thing, is that we're at that point now where where we have to. I'm sorry, we have to use physical violence to deter physical violence, and that's, this brings me back to what I was saying about brakemanship. I mean, you're going to see the left turn around and try to use that against you. Oh, look, they're being violent. See, we told you. Or they're Trump protesters. They're Trump supporters. See how violent they are. Because the mainstream media is never going to show what's really going on here. But this is what brakemanship is that you challenge your adversary. You say, all right, you're going to do this, you're going to come to our rallies, and you're going to start whacking people and chucking stuff at us and, setting things on fire. We have a group over here of about 20 people that, I'm even going to say it, these guys are the Second Amendment, they're all licensed to carry, they're carrying, we have pepper spray, we have stuff, and we're going to counter you. And if you come at us, we will meet you with violence.
And we've seen that, the Battle of Berkeley, the two of them now. I mean, they're literally calling them battles where people are going out and fighting full on, like, in the street battles against Antifa. Antifa's literally putting M80s in glass bottles and throwing them to create shrapnel, and they're literally taping National Geographics to their stomach and forearms to keep themselves from getting cut and vital organs in places. And it's at the point now where there's legitimately...
Isn't that sick? M80s in a fucking glass jar.
It's like, they're just taking stuff out of the anarchist cookbook at this point. I mean, legitimately...
Well, that is what it is.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Joe's over there laughing.
No, it's sick, but at this point we've seen, specifically mentioned Kyle Chapman again. The guy is actually going out and he's started the Fraternal Order of the Alt Knights, where he's literally starting these citizens' vanguards, and
I don't blame him.
He's setting up counter
Now,
protests.
who is this person again? What's it?
They call him, his name's Kyle Chapman, but they call him Based Stickman.
And where is he out of?
He was out of Texas, I do believe. But he was famous for carrying a shield and a gas mask and a stick and smacking some of these Antifa over the head with it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
He became this big hero to people that were just sick of seeing Antifa just be able to break stuff.
I love it.
Yeah, it was the best thing in the world.
We got to get hold of this guy.
Oh, actually, he's a friend of mine on Facebook.
Oh,
I should send him a
go
message.
ahead. Yeah, send him. He can call in because I do. I interview people all across the country. That's a great thing about the internet radio, and. The good old cell phone, just plug it into the soundboard and do it right off.
Facebook message.
Yeah, that'd be great. I gotta hear this guy's story. That's unbelievable. So you're the recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
Your numbers have grown. Where do you guys meet? Where?
Literally just in a room in the library. That's where we meet. And, days it fills up. And then people just get around to talk about what's happening on campus and politics. And, depending on the week, right after the election, there's a lot going on campus. Mm-hmm. There were professors that were teaching, for me specifically, my professor sat us all down in psychology class and taught us about white privilege. And I'm not white, don't think white privilege is a thing. Said that, and it was a problem. I used the race card, and so it kind of shut her down. But the fact that psychology and the white privilege thing, not related at all. And you're taking time out of the curriculum to tell us why we shouldn't like Donald Trump.
That's more of that construct. That's more of that invented bullshit and the left, we talked about this off mic, it's gotten to the point where they're protesting anything they can protest. They're quite literally making this stuff up off the top of their heads. Black Lives Matter, white privilege, war on women, green energy, climate change, and all these catchphrases and watchwords that are out there. It's all stuff that is just manufactured and made up, and none of it has any teeth to it. None of it has any real any substance to it. But what's bizarre, I find, is how much power it carries. How it just keeps on going.
The thing is that it dwells in places where it's an echo chamber, so it's allowed to thrive.
Well said. Dwells in places echo chamber.
And I remember my mom always used to tell me things that are in the darkness when exposed to light. They have a way of shriveling up and dying.
Sure.
But when you have these echo chambers, like I think of them as cellars, where these people just kind of sit down there and they talk at each other all day, and that's basically what it is. It's like the Mutual Admiration Society in here in Worcester, where people just sit around and give each other awards all day for the Democratic Party for, I don't know, They mowed their lawn on any given day.
Mutual Admiration Society.
Yeah, and I mean, at that point, that's really what it is. But this is what happens: is everyone gets together. There's no outside points of view.
Everyone's
going to
get a trophy today.
Everyone's gotta have their way said, and they're literally at the point they're fighting over. Oh, how not about whether all white people are racist, but how racist are the white people? How racist are all of them? It's literally this idea of even an original sin that white people are inherently racist just for being white.
I love it when blacks, Latinos, anyone from any different type of ethnicity ends up being a Republican, ends up being a conservative type, even a Trump supporter working on the campaign.
Yeah.
I'm in the Worcester Tea Party. I'm on the board of directors there. We have all sorts of people from all different ethnicities and everything. It completely shatters the concept of this, you just said it, white privilege, this whole made-up thing of racism, that if you are a conservative, then you're ipso de facto automatically racist.
Yeah.
But again, even in the stark reality of that being right there in front of your face, the left still continues, it like goes right by them, and they continue down the same road.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's just you run out of things to say at that point with just the way that
you really do, actually.
Yeah, it's like how much can I really try to defend myself? But see, that's also another thing, is that what they do is they talk so much and allow no room for rebuttal, and basically some of it sticks while some of it doesn't. Mm-hmm. It's this information overload that people do.
Throw enough shit on the wall too.
Yeah,
right.
That's really what it becomes.
See what sticks on there.
Exactly.
You make a great point. And always pay attention as you're going through debates or anything else, or just discussing things with people. They will jump all over the ends of your sentences. You'll be in the middle of something and you'll be trying to explain something, and they'll jut right in the middle of the sentence, shout you down, or overtalk you, or talk through while you're sitting there still trying to explain something. That is a common tactic. In fact, you'll even watch any newscast. Watch any news thing that goes on. The person will be explaining, and I think that this, and then the newscaster, what you just said is, it's like, well, wait a minute, let me finish what I'm saying here.
Exactly.
Sometimes what's very important, especially when you're in radio or when you're in television and you're there in front of the camera, the end of the sentence, the end of that paragraph, is usually where you make that final point. You button everything up and you hand it as a nice package. Mm-hmm. So it's very important for people on the left to make sure that they jump all over that last sentence, because then the listeners or the watchers on TV, they don't, what did he say? What was that?
Exactly.
What? I missed that.
And then it's easier for them to cut up into sound bites and reproduce and send to CNN and MSNBC and all these
exactly.
places.
Oh God, yeah.
And then you even have them where they're taking video snippets, like the one from the Easter egg thing at the White House, where they made
he signed the hat and tossed it back to the kid.
They made it look like Trump just threw the kid's hat and was like, oh, laughing about it, and like then there's the person who actually took a video of it and they literally cut like a whole bunch out of it, and they that's what they do. That's what leftism is. It's a manipulation of reality. Mm-hmm. It's not understanding that, hey, this really sounds great on paper, but it's time to actually step in and realize that there are middle-class Americans, working-class Americans, that this isn't going to work for. It's not even going to work for the lower class. The only thing you're doing is like bringing everyone down to the same equal mediocrity, which is exactly what leftism is.
Equal mediocrity. Now, you were saying earlier about how, you grew up in a relatively conservative household. What about you? How did you get into this?
I mean, my parents weren't political at all. They let me form my own opinions. I went to Catholic private school, and going throughout high school, I was pretty liberal. But when I was getting more into the game industry, there was this, PC culture just came and it's like, this is ours now. And they were basically like, oh, the term gamer is a sexist term. What? That doesn't make any sense. I know women who are gamers. How can it be inherently sexist? And they just went on saying, oh yeah, the games you make are making people sexist. You play a game, a character has like a nice butt. It's like, oh, well, that means you want to rape women, and all these crazy arguments. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is a problem. And on Twitter, I was complaining a lot, and then after a while, I got blocked by tons of other developers, and I'm blocked by a bunch of feminist critics, and to be honest, don't care. They're crazy people anyway, we don't want to work with them.
That just reminds me, who is the person running for Congress or representatives.
Ooh,
down here.
okay.
Brianna Wu?
Brianna Wu
That's
is
who it
running
is.
for Congress. Or I think it's the House of Representatives.
Either way.
Doesn't matter. She's a crazy person. She was involved with this issue called Gamergate. There are tons of issues with her.
Let it go. Go. Do it.
There are tons of issues with her.
Go ahead.
She compares herself to Batman fighting the Joker, and she's like,
What?
oh man, yeah, she called the internet and like the alt-right the Joker, and that she's Batman, when in reality she's Two-Face, let's be honest. Okay? And she'll go on these...
What was her slogan? Her slogan was like, I defeated the alt-right.
Yeah,
Now I'm gonna fight Washington.
Yep.
And I'm like, you literally just posted on Twitter for 20 minutes, cried and went to sleep. You didn't win a single thing. And now you're gonna try to run for political office? It's probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
You know what she does for a living? She made one game. The game is garbage. And then she just gets donations from people who feel like they need to give women reparations.
And where is she out of? Where is she?
She's in Boston.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm not surprised. You know how Boston is. I think we all know how Boston is.
Oh God, yeah. Oh Christ. We were there in March for the Trump rally, and the vagina hat showed up.
Yeah.
They did. They were across the street, but it's poetic justice because we're on the steps of the State House, facing the Common. They're across the street, and what was beautiful, it was just so poetic in justice that where we were, there's a traffic light there. So these trucks would pull up, big semis or moving vans, and they'd be at the red light, and the vagina hats were behind them. Meanwhile, we're on the stairs, and we had all these people in front of us, and people are honking. They're like, yeah. So, and it's like we were kind of like, and then of course the traffic would go, and then they'd pick up the blowhorn and start screaming and yelling again. But they were across the street. But it's like we kind of like eyeball. It's like, oh, don't worry, here comes another semi. And the light's turning yellow. It would pull off. Sit there for however long the light was. It was like, oh, it was beautiful, beautiful.
It reminds me of a video I saw. It's over literally in Britain. They're still having Black Lives Matter protests over in Britain, and it's literally these folks standing out in front, like blocking traffic, and they're going, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, and then the camera shifts, and the guy blocking traffic is literally a black guy on the way to like his construction job, and he's literally just sitting like this, just. Are you serious right now? Like, I gotta get to work. Like, it's a perfect, it sums up the whole, how out of touch they are with their own people. Touch. Like, it's like they're literally protesting in...
Well, like we had said before, they can't understand when, there's a black or a Latino or even somebody who's gay, like Milo Yiannopoulos. They can't understand that. It's like you're gay, so you're supposed to be on our side, and it's like, look, I'm an independent person,
Yeah.
Well, you're black, you're supposed to be on. Look, I'm me. I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Mark Dice does a great video. At least I think it's Mark Dice. I'll have to look that back up. The point is he asks all these vagina hats and millennials about voter ID. And of course, they're all going on and on about the standard stock. It's like they don't know where to go, or it's tough for them to get an ID. Some people, that they don't drive, so they don't have a car, so they don't have a driver's license. Blah 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 blah. They're going on and on. Then the next frame is he's in an inner city neighborhood, and he's asking black people, and they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about, man? I got my ID right here." It's like I got a driver's license. It's like I got my ID to the library. It's like, what are you?
They just basically want to give people, like, the reason they want to push so hard against the voter ID thing is so they can keep bringing in people illegally and keep them voting Democrat.
Keep voting whatever.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I've also said is that they'll continually give away free things, and what they want is they don't want minorities to progress, because if they can keep them in that mindset, they can keep them in their pocket, which is exactly what they keep doing with all these, with creating basically a welfare state in this country. It was basically those that want to get ahead, it's harder for them to do that.
And also the labeling, the term minority. I mean, all right, what's your... You said you're not white.
I'm Puerto Rican, but...
Well, there you go. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But, like, do you feel like, oh, I'm a minority?
No. I've had
you got all sorts of friends all over.
Yeah, I've had other Puerto Ricans say, well, you're a race traitor for, being conservative. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. You got to do what's best for your race. And I'm like, what? I didn't know I had a group that I had to represent. I'm representing myself.
Oh, but yeah, I just represent myself.
Apparently you're a card-carrying Puerto Rican or something.
Yeah, you know how it is.
I like that card-carrying Puerto Rican.
Yeah, it's really funny too because
it's got the little star in there.
It's literally it's so funny. There's some times when I sit down I call it my class, but it's like when I'm doing my my YAL meetings and I look around and I'm like, I would love it for somebody to come in here right now and say that we're like a white-dominated club because there's literally like 3 or 4 white people in that entire room and like
amazing,
we are totally outnumbered there, and it's just at that point and they would still come there and be like, oh no, everyone's just a race trader. It's like, no, people just think for themselves.
And it's the labeling too. Yeah. This is another thing that is a standard fare. It's a standard tactic of the left is always to keep things labeled.
Yep.
That way you can keep things divided, and keep things divided. It's easy to keep people against each other and polarized all the time. There's always that famous. There was a piece written by Teddy Roosevelt about you can't be a hyphenated American. You're an American.
Yeah.
Even if you come here as an immigrant, you desire to become an American. An American is a way of life. It's not necessarily a race, but it's a way of life. It's a mindset. And once you attain that, once you attain your citizenship, and the whole world is your oyster, and it doesn't matter, black, white, Jew, female, it doesn't matter. The world is your oyster. But what he went on to continue to say is that as long as you keep hyphenating yourself, you marginalize yourself.
Yep.
I'm a Mexican American, or I'm a Jewish American, or I'm a Black American, or African American.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I always find amazing is I'll probably end up getting punched in the face if I ever do this, but I would really like, if somebody sits there and says, well, I'm African American, it's like, oh, really? What country from Africa? Well, no, I was born in Worcester. It's like, oh, so you're an American. No, I'm African American. It's like, look, you can only be African American if you have dual citizenship, and you're from some African country, and you have dual citizenship. And even then, you're not African American. You're African who lives here in America.
Yeah.
Or are you an American that sometimes goes to Africa? It's like, what is it here?
It's really an important point. I mean, and you said it yourself, and it's that they marginalize themselves just by keeping those hyphens in there, which is, I've said by far that one of the biggest problems that we have is that people feel like they need to jump into these small cliques. And they have this feeling like they have to start these small social clubs when the one thing...
Like Young Americans for Liberty?
Yeah, like us. But the thing that I've really felt like that I've wanted to do with YAL is that I've wanted to be able to bring people together on common issues. People like... I've even told them, I was like, if I get a Democrat in there that's like, I don't know, against higher taxes, even just because they know that their parents are going to take it, just because, I mean, they're not going to be able to keep money for themselves. And I want to bring people together. That's the one thing that I've wanted. And bipartisanship is something that we've really tried to focus on, in being able to bring people together to discuss things. And that was the other thing. Free speech, people being able to debate freely was another one without having feelings like it's just going to be two leftists debating who's more left than the other. It's actually going to be like left v right.
What a great point. What are we going to end up with? All right, let's say that the left wins and they get what they want. What are you going to debate?
Yeah.
Well, I'm more of a global warming enthusiast than you are. No, I'm more of a global warming enthusiast.
It's the
what are you going to argue?
Yeah, it's the oppression Olympics. People are sitting there and
the oppression Olympics.
They're trying to figure out. It's like and they have they have a black guy in a wheelchair against a transgender guy that's like also in a wheelchair, and he's like, well, we're both in a wheelchair, but I'm trans, and that means that I was oppressed more. And he's like, well, I'm black, and that means that I was oppressed more. And it's like literally, it just becomes a contest to see who can basically get the most sympathy from the left, and the people on the right are just like, oh yeah, we just really wouldn't like it if you took more of our money.
Any
please.
college radios hitting you guys up to come on and talk? Is any other groups, anybody?
We feel like we're pretty much Lone Rangers right now. I mean,
really?
we've people.
You guys can come on here anytime you want.
Oh yeah, we will absolutely come back. one of the things that we said was there's a radio station over by Clark and Michael Gaffney.
Yeah, WCW. I interned there. I was there for a number of years. Oh, those guys are left.
Yeah, he
Total
told me.
left.
I was talking to him because I help out with his campaign stuff, and the one thing that we talked about was like, well, what do you think about some of the radio stations in the area? And I was like, and it's one of the reasons I was glad that he came on here. And he was like, well, we were driving past the Clark radio station, and I pointed out, I was like, how about that one? He just, I was like, what can I say?
Yeah,
Like, what?
yeah.
Like,
The manager Troy would not be. He is. They are. I got fired from there. Yeah. Oh, and oh god, they had minders. They'd be listening to my show. And I'd go in the next week to do next week's show, and I'd always get called into the office, and he would say to me, well, I got an email that, and it was an overnight show, I did like midnight to 3 a.m., and he'd say, well, at 1:52, you said this, that, the other thing, and so I looked down and I was like, do you have people minding my show?
Yeah.
And it's like, just so that you can call me in every week?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what is that?
It's not freedom of expression, that's for sure. I mean, if you have a radio station,
And here's, he said to me, well, this is a community radio, and there are rules and this, that, the other thing. I said, well, I understand that. I said, but you do realize I pay for this time. I pay my dues. I pay my monthly fees.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't understand what's going on here. If you want to mind my show and you want me to say specific things,
Hire me.
then hire me.
Yeah.
Hire me as an employee. So
Yeah.
now I have to comply with your rules.
Yeah.
It's one of the great things about doing this, and this is probably something that you guys could probably look into as time goes on. Get some gear and go on Spreaker, and I like Spreaker myself. I was on Blog Talk for a while. It's okay. They tend to break up your show with Blog Talk Radio. So, no, I'm not into that. Whereas with Spreaker, you buy the time,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's the best thing I can think of. And there
And
was
you reach a larger audience.
Oh yeah, and I mean there was a time where like I was thinking about doing a podcast like weekly and being able to sit down and like have a bunch of people just talk and have my guys over here, but the way that YouTube is right now.
YouTube's great. Yep, fantastic.
They're not going to let me sit there and talk conservatism. They're not going to let me. I mean, they're even censoring Prager University videos.
Really?
Like it's really the strangest.
And I do a lot of Prager on the show.
Yeah. Like Dennis Prager, I think his channel got like temporarily suspended, right? Like the entire
because
channel
they were
itself.
like just doing videos that talk conservative ideas. Like
Yeah.
right now with YouTube, a lot of the mainstream leftist media outlets have been. This is their new target now.
Mhm.
This is the new like thing that PC culture wants to squash because it's going up against them. And what we're seeing is a lot of people who create content online might actually have some conservative views.
Mhm.
So then Wall Street Journal or Huffington Post will turn around and say they're a Nazi, which is a huge stretch,
Mhm.
and it'll get people to comb through literally the biggest YouTuber, 40 million subscribers, PewDiePie. They will have people sit there and comb through his stuff to find like 5 instances of him making jokes about Nazis and said, okay, because he made jokes about Nazis, he is a Nazi.
Yep.
And so now advertisers are pulling out, people are pulling out, and I know people who cannot afford rent this month because the Wall Street Journal said that YouTube is like a haven for the alt-right.
Yep.
And what is this alt-right? I know it's that one guy who is somewhat of a, and I don't know, I wouldn't even call him a Nazi. I just think he's a little crazy, to be honest with you.
Richard Spencer, I believe.
Yeah,
is the
Richard
guy
Spencer,
I'm
thank
thinking
you.
about. Yeah.
But that is an extreme. All right, I'm gonna say it. It's an extremist type group.
It is.
He represents a very small clique of people, and the vast majority of people who came together on Election Day and put Trump into the office are not of that. They're concerned Americans, and they've spent the last 8 years being quiet. There's a sign that says right there, the silent majority.
Yep.
That was an old Nixon term.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that got Nixon in, because after the whole 60s and the anti-war and everything else, that's how Nixon got in. He tapped that silent majority. That's where the term came from. Reagan did the same thing. That's where the term came from. And it happened again with Donald Trump. And this is what I don't think. This is a thing that I think the left has a very hard time wrapping their minds around. is these really far left extremist groups. And I'm not even talking to Bernie Sanders. Believe it or not, folks, Bernie Sanders is just run-of-the-mill socialist. Okay, that's what he is. We're talking the extreme, the what Bill Maher called the gay mafia. Even you just said transgender people. Black transgenders in wheelchairs, that kind of stuff. They're like 1 to 3%. Maybe the gay community writ large is, 5-6% of the entire population of the United States, whereas the overwhelming vast majority of Americans are just average, hard-working people who are centrist, maybe right-wing, and yes, Republicans, registered Republicans. Vast majority. Vast majority. In fact, the standard Democrat base, and I'm even going to pull the number, the so-called 62 million who voted for Hillary Clinton, even a lot of those, a majority of those, are just average Democrats. They're not, these, vagina hat people that are out there that you see. And think about some of the protests when they show up. It's like, there's really not a lot of them when they protest.
Do you really think that social justice warrior stuff is going to fly with the blue-collar coal union guys that vote blue every single time? It's just... They vote with the party, and there's a lot of people that do that, and that's just something that happens. But there is that group, this outspoken minority that I would like to say that they are, of these people that like to be loud. They like to smash windows, flip cars, all this stuff, just to get their point across. And what it does is
a tiny piece.
And I'm telling you, it's going to further weaponize people. It's going to turn people that were generally very moderate Democrats. It's going to push them to the right. They're going to make Donald Trump get elected a second term.
I have said many times in my monologues and everything else, talking to other people, I have said it a million times. I want to see the left continue to do this. Because they're just shooting themselves in the foot. More and more Americans are seeing them for exactly what they are. And you're right. I think even 2018 is going to be a big turn. We're going to pick up more seats in Congress and in the Senate. It's too early to predict, but I would even go out on a limb and say, 2020 is pretty assured. I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, Elizabeth Warren, she's just recently said, no, I'm not going to run, but her name was floated. They're floating Michelle Obama's name.
Did she even have community organizer?
I don't know.
What did she do other than tell kids not to eat chocolate in schools? I can't really think of anything other than that. I mean,
she's another phony too. I remember when the whole vegetable garden thing came out and she started that whole campaign. She did the photo ops and everything. Trying to get people to eat more healthy. Well, come to find out several years later, as he got into his second term, that whole idea was abandoned. But the vegetable garden stayed because it had to, present itself. It had to look good. But they ended up just hiring gardeners.
I wonder who's paying for those gardeners.
We're paying for the gardeners. Exactly. This is true. And so I think it is. I think it's assured in 2018 and 2020 if this continues, especially if they get more and more violent. Barring some catastrophic scandal, and I don't see Donald Trump as a scandal guy. I mean, he loves his wife, he loves his family, he loves his country, and which is a big thing. Politicians get into it for their own aggrandizement. They get into it for the career building, the connections, and if they get voted out of office, well, there's always a cushy lobby position that they can get for $200,000 a year. And but somebody like Donald Trump, Donald Trump at this point in time is doing what our founders had said about getting into public office, that it's supposed to be at the end of your career. You have your farm, your plantation, or whatever, and you do this, or maybe you serve in the military, and you run your business, you raise your family, and then at the twilight of your life, it's like, you know what, I think I'll go serve in Senate for a couple of terms, and die in office, kind of thing,
And it makes sense. I mean, our founding fathers were not stupid people. They knew how to plan, and let me tell you, the one thing that I really like about that is what they had originally intended for was because they had nothing left to gain from the power of a political office. They had done their time, they have their share of land, they have everything they could possibly ask for.
They had done everything.
They had done it. So at this point, all they did was know that this country had given them their whole life, and now they want to give back.
Sure.
In their twilight years.
What was amazing too is if you look at the roster of presidents, a lot of the original what is it, like the first half dozen of the presidents were all original signers of either the Declaration or the Constitution, writers of some of the early legislation. They served in the Revolution, and even then they served in the Continental Congress at the time. So it was probably very apropos for them to, at the end of their life, serve in either the House or the Senate, or yes, even run for president and be president. Because I have a feeling that if we elected a lot of these people from wherever, I don't think our country would have gone in the direction it has gone into. In other words, what I'm saying is those first 6 or 7 presidents were kind of like vanguards. They were the guardians of that fragile nation from that 1790 into, I'm going to say all the way up to Jackson maybe, who was really probably one of the first populists, a Democrat, that started changing the tide of America. But up from the Constitution up until about Jackson, they were vanguards.
Yeah. They
were guardians of this fragile nation that was still, think about it. We didn't even have a Navy. We had like the Constitution and the Enterprise, and that was it. And
like what were we?
But yet somehow we were able to go to war and go and do stuff. So it was nothing short of amazing. Do you find yourselves wanting to learn more about that history, to really start immersing yourself into it?
Of course. The one thing that I think about, and it's the one thing that they always say is a bad thing, but I always said it's a great thing, is that when you're a conservative or a conservative libertarian, a conservatarian, as I like to call them,
that's a great term.
They like to look to the past in order to steer our future. And I found that when we do that and we look back at tradition, which is always the dirty word for liberals because they think that it means clinging to these old things, really when in fact it just means having this respect for what we were and understanding that can be applied today. And I think that out of that tradition, looking into our past and the way that our founders originally intended this country to be, and understanding that there are some rights that are unalienable and that they are going to be able to, that they're not going to touch. Well, they're not going to take away our guns. That's the big one.
Yeah, sure.
I'm big on that. That's like something that I've always said is fundamental in order to keep government tyranny from taking over.
And you must hear it from the left out of school.
Of course.
So
of course.
Some violent guns. Oh my God. Assault weapons. No such thing as an assault weapon. Assault is a verb, idiot.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They don't know the difference.
I have an assault snowblower and assault lawnmowers. Because our founders intended that you just have that you shovel snow. Our founders intended that you have one of those push mowers with the rotary blades. You didn't intend to put engines and dual blades onto with self-bagging, self-propelled lawnmowers.
Be careful.
It's an assault lawnmower.
Yeah, be careful. Someone's going to take away that assault lamp you got there because we were only intended to have a candle that was lit all the time.
Assault lamp, right?
Exactly. That's all we're supposed to have. It's really funny. I talk about this all the time. Like our founding fathers literally ordered these like air-powered like rifles that weren't even like muzzle loaders. Like they ordered these. They outfitted the Lewis and Clark expedition with them. They literally fired like 10 rounds in like less than a minute.
Sure, they had because they're going out in Indian territory. You can't reload a musket.
No, they understood.
First repeater rifle. It was never used in the Revolution. It was, of course, later on in the 1800s, the Gatling gun came out, and but. No, it even existed back then. It was a way of rotating the gun, multi-firing. You'd have 2 or 3 of them, so when that was done, you'd start up the other one and then reload this one.
Yeah.
So, it's dumb. I don't know. So, what I want to ask you guys before I let you go is that, what's happening, like, are you getting any rallies together? I know you're having your meetings, but are you thinking of like, Lincoln Square or Crystal Park or wherever, we're going to have a rally, we're going to do this, that, the other? Are you planning anything like that?
I have been debating with the idea for a while, but now it's looking more like it's going to be a reality. We want to host and use Elm Park as a place to get the youth in the area who are really tired of the way that Worcester specifically has been being run. We want to get them together and we want to rally around Mike Gaffney as he pursues his next run at mayor. He
was on the show last week. Gave a great interview. He's always fun to have on the show. he was describing to me about how, even though he lost the mayoral campaign, in his first election, his second election as councilor, and then his mayoral run, he got like thousands of more voters onto the roll.
Yeah.
Petty maybe a couple hundred here and there, maybe 1,000. I forget what the number was that Gaffney said. But yeah, Gaffney is like 5,000, 8,000, 14,000 people. New voters.
Yeah. See, that's the one thing that I think that Democrats and leftists in general didn't understand about this election, is that when it comes down to it, on election day, the person that is most excited about their candidate is the one that's going to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of a single person that was excited to get up and vote for Hillary Clinton. I mean, in my circles, maybe a couple, I can't think of a single person. Everyone that I knew that went to go and vote for Donald Trump ran to the ballots.
I was excited.
Ran. I jogged.
I went early in the morning. As soon as they opened, there was already a line. The parking lot was already full. I came back from work. The parking lot was even fuller. The line was out the door. And that was good to see. That was really good to see.
And that's where it comes back to the new voters, because people are excited for a change. They want to see conservative values and Republican values brought in to the city, because they know that what's here is not working. We can see that it's not working. Just driving around town, we can see that it's not working.
The trash gets to me. It really does. There's trash everywhere. This neighborhood's not bad because it's a normal neighborhood. It's a neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's like houses. You go into some of these areas that are, I'm going to say it, the inner city.
Yeah.
And it's just horrendous. It's just trash in the gutter, trash in the streets, trash on the yards, an empty lot. It's not even just junk cars. It's like somebody dumps a couch or a washing machine. It's everywhere in the city.
Exactly.
It's sick. So yeah, get something going. Keep me in the loop, because I'd like to come down with my camera here, film that.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Put that all out over social media.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be the plan.
And so yeah, great. I'd love to be there.
Sounds fantastic.
So come by anytime. Give me a call. You got something happening? Just hit me up on Facebook. We'll slot you in there. You don't have to stay for an hour. Just come down and say, "Oh, we're doing this, that, the other thing," and
yeah,
or you can just call in.
Of course. I'm always free to call in. Believe me.
Anything you want to add before we?
Hey, freedom's great, young people. Start paying attention to it, because there are a lot of people who don't want you to have it. All right, just putting that out there. The left is not. They don't have your best interest in mind.
Well,
right?
what's interesting too is if it gets taken away, Yuri Bezmenov, who was an old KGB spy back in the days, there's an old video that he shot. He's here in the United States. He was, I don't know, some Phil Donahue show or something like that back in the 70s, and he was talking about is that once the communists took over, and they had gotten rid of the opposition and sent everybody who was opposing them openly to the gulag or just killed them, what they started to do is they started to eat their own. They went back to the Communist Party to weed out people who weren't 100% pulling the party line. And more importantly, is they got rid of the people who, during the early days, the rallies and the riots and everything, who were organizing those riots, people like the Jane Fondas.
Yeah.
Let's think about people like Cornel West. He's a big Black Lives Matter guy.
Yep.
Let's think about people like Louis Farrakhan or the other guy there, Sharpton.
Al Sharpton.
People like that who are the organizers. Even some of the people like the vagina, look at Madonna, the vagina hat thing that they did. Who's the other one there? Ashley Judd, or I think her name was, the one that was saying that she's an angry woman. What Yuri Bezmenov said is, once we took over, we got rid of even those people.
Mm-hmm.
He went on to say that the reason why they did that, not only because that's part of the communist ideology, but he said that once communism took over, and these people who helped get us there realized that what they were fighting for, it's like, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought I was fighting for.
Yeah.
Now they start to question.
Mm-hmm.
And the very people that helped organize them, the communists, are now starting to question, well, what are you doing? I thought we were supposed to have, the workers' rights and fields full of food and pumping out machinery and, all this. We're supposed to live this utopian life.
Yeah.
And then when they find out that that's not what it is, Yuri Bezmenov was saying, it's like, no, we have to get rid of these people.
Yeah.
Because it's about the securing of the communist ideology and the power.
That's exactly what it is. It's no longer about the end game for them. What it is, it's about preserving the ideology itself, which is what we're seeing right now. Is people are on the defensive on the Democratic Party. I will always just love to see it when it's like this, and it's the first time I've seen it in my lifetime. My dad says he hasn't seen anything like it for like a long time, but it's that at this point they are on the defensive. They are no longer attacking. People aren't going and watching Bill Maher on HBO, and they're not sitting down and trying to watch Trevor Noah doing the Daily Show or whatever he does.
That guy's a twit.
But like,
oh my God.
no one's sitting down.
Samantha
to watch.
Bee, she's the
oh,
other
that's
one.
even worse.
Oh
boy.
God.
Yeah.
But like, no one wants to sit down and watch that. What people are doing now is they are calling it for what it is, and it's garbage. It's falsehood. It's nothing but twisting of words.
SNL, their ratings have tanked.
It's not even funny anymore.
Because they said, no, we're going to have, Baldwin there. He's going to play Donald Trump. And that's going to be our theme for the season. And after, maybe 2 or 3 episodes in, it was funny. But then after a while, it's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, it's beating the same horse into glue over and over again,
Oh,
you know?
it's nuts. What about your parents, Joe? Dan was saying that his parents were more conservative. He grew up kind of like that. What about you? What about your upbringing?
I've talked with my parents about it. They're not really open to giving me the political opinions, but it's like, Dad's a cop, Mom works at the Child Abuse Prevention Center. They do good work, and they'll say things like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. They're definitely very center. I think they switch back and forth, but they were really like, okay, Joe, you can just have whatever opinions you want to have. I mean, I wouldn't have minded if my parents debated me, or that I woke up one day and my parents were communists. I'd be like, okay, yeah, you're wrong, and then I'd sit there and I'd argue with them.
Yeah.
And I do that now with family. I got some very left-leaning family, and I'll make jokes. I'll make jokes even at the expense of Donald Trump. And I like him.
Yeah,
and then I have family members who will say, he's the Antichrist, and I'm like, that is crazy. What are you saying?
It's funny, my grandfather said that about Obama, but that never happened.
He's the Antichrist. Well, they're all just misguided. Anyway, from Young Americans for Liberty, Dan Jackson, Joe Garcia. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And what's your friend's name in the background there?
It's Brian Toohey.
Yeah, Brian.
Brian Toohey. I'm sorry we didn't get you on there, but...
Next time we'll bring him on.
Sure, great. All right, guys, the Meat and Potato Show, Conservative Talk, Awesome Rock, KTNTRadio.com.